because I think that there's so much of like a knee-jerk reaction to like, oh, they used a screen that's bad. And it's just like there are good screen rides and there are bad screen rides.
Yeah.
Like I think all of the screen usage in this ride is really well done.
I'm Demi, theme park YouTuber, aka Magical Hijinx.
And I'm entertainment journalist Joey Nolfi, and we've both been diagnosed with terminal theme park obsession, and we're definitely going to spread it to you on the Park Peeps podcast.
We've got years of theme park knowledge, so join us as we serve piping hot takes, park tea, offer the best travel hacks and tips, and chat with guests in the theme park space.
So sit down, buckle in, and pull up on that yellow strap while we dispatch for the Park Peeps podcast. Welcome back to the Park Peeps podcast. We do have to warn our listeners. There is a lightning strike in our local area. We are hunkered down in our storm shelter. Oh no, Demi, it's approaching once again. Lightning is about to strike. Demi, take cover.
No!
Clearly, the keys are in the ignition. But, Demi, is there gas in the tank for us right now?
Okay, so I thought that you left the gas tank open to put extra water in case of emergency. And so I drank that already.
Oh.
So we have more than one problem.
We have multiple problems, it sounds like, because I'm going to add another problem on top of that, Demi.
What's that?
So you can yes and me. That water that I put in was actually preserved water from Splash Mountain. So it wasn't just any water.
Oh, no.
And actually a little bottle of Rivers of America water as well.
Oh, now I'm going to cry.
It's all swirling around.
It keeps it alive forever inside of me.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's a nice way to bring it around. That's a nice way to look at it. Well, while we contemplate taking Demi to the hospital, joining us today for a similarly car-themed entity of a different nature, we have a special guest who, yes, as you can see on his Guide to Disney pages, has indeed done Test Track 3.0.
Here to tell us about his experience on the highly anticipated new attraction refurb and all things Disney parks, including what this important next phase in Disney Imagineering might look like going forward, please welcome James Grosch. Thanks so much for being here, James. We're so happy to have you.
Oh, thank y'all for having me. I'm really thrilled to be on here. I know that y'all are a newer theme park podcast, and within the first 15 episodes, you've already covered Disney World bathrooms. So I just y'all are my people. That is
We're your peeps.
Yes, you're a peep. You're a park peep.
A priority. So
one of the biggest priorities.
Yes, of course. No, when we had her on, Gabriella, that was such an amazing episode. I mean, she is just such a, she literally has a memory of theme park bathrooms where she, you can tell she's not even looking it up in the moment. We were just talking about stuff and she was like, oh yeah, the bathrooms over here, X, Y, and Z, and have this, this, and this. And I'm just like, this is the kind of hyper specificity we are looking for. And I am so glad that in our research for Test Track 3.0, as we were excitedly poring over everybody who has done this so far, we came across your profile because we're always looking to expand our family of park peeps, and you just seemed like the perfect addition. So
awesome.
Yeah, very, very excited to talk to you about this. And let us just say, for those of you who are not watching our social media clip, who might only be listening, James came very, 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 very prepared. He has his Epcot shirt on that has an 82 on it. He's got a blue light going on in the background. He's ready. He is ready.
Hey, professional content creator, professional theme parker, fake job,
right.
but
Fake
somehow
job.
it's real.
We're not really a job, but we're also a job. And then you have to explain it to people. And they're like, that's not a job. And we're like,
that's not a job. No.
It is, but I get it. Yeah.
It is, but it's not. But the amount of time that I spent on it, and the amount of time that I think about these things, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. I just love that phrase. We're not a job.
We are. You know the phrase that if you do the thing you love, then you never work a day in your life. I love doing YouTube and content creation for theme parks, but I work every day of my life. I know what they're talking about.
Yeah. It just makes me think of that scene in Mrs. Doubtfire. I think, Demi, this is the second episode in a row, I think, that I have maybe brought up Mrs. Doubtfire. Yeah. But when I think of the scene where he's like, I am job. So I mean,
Job.
that's y'all right now.
Yeah.
You are Job.
We are Job.
Yes.
We are
But
Job.
But before we get into Test Track 3.0, James, can you tell our listeners a little bit about your history with the parks, why you're so interested in this topic, and the kind of coverage that you do?
Your Job.
Okay, so
Yes.
Job. I am Job.
Job.
I am
I am
theme
Job.
park Job.
Theme park Job.
Yeah, so I think by like a lot of other content creators, just like who are into theme parks, like I grew up going to Disney World a lot, or grew up going to the parks a lot. That was like our big family vacation. And I'm a millennial, so it's just like imprinted on my brain. And then by the time I could actually, have money of my own, and I was living out in LA, I bought an annual pass to Disneyland and started going there a lot.
Yes.
And kind of how this ties in with the content creation stuff is that Guide2WDW started as a website that my sister started in 1999. What? And so it was one of the first Disney fan sites that like there was a short period, I think around 2000, that if you just Googled Disney World, like it was like the first page.
Wow.
Guide2WDW was on it. So, and my sister like made it her business, and she was in high school at the time. So she made it her business and did that. And then she ended up going to Harvard Business School and not having time because she had real job. So I was a theater major and who
speaking Demi's language.
Who graduated during the Great Recession. So my sister was like, "Oh, do you want fake job?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll take it over." So I took over the site in 2009. It was kind of like this side hobby thing. Then a couple of years ago, I started, instead of writing blog posts, started focusing on creating video content on Guide2WDW, YouTube and Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all that. And so that is now how I am here and now make videos almost every day now for like short videos, and then trying to get once a week on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. I know the struggle.
Yeah.
The theater kid to Disney creator pipeline.
It is strong.
It is strong. There's so many of us, believe it or not.
Much to my dismay.
Yeah. Joey famously is not a fan of live theater and yet does podcast with someone who still works in live theater as well as doing YouTube and content creation.
That is very interesting because theme parks are very live theater-esque. It's like a giant theater that you're going into that you can then go ride on a roller coaster.
Yeah, and that's all he wants to do is ride on the
Exactly. No, that element of it I am usually very obsessed with. Like I love that it's all show. Like it's literally all show that you can go and do and just experience and bask in and do all that. However, that is partially why I don't, and Demi has heard this 900 times so far, but like, that's partially why I just think that like live theater in the parks is kind of like a waste of time, because to me, I don't want to wait in line to then sit in a theater to see a separate show when I'm already like immersed in all of the other show, where other show is like jostling me around on a ride or like taking me through the Haunted Mansion or Pirates of the Caribbean. And I don't know. I don't like.
What if you didn't have to wait online and you could just walk in and sit down and watch?
If every show was Mickey and the Wondrous Book at Hong Kong Disneyland, yes. But if it's the Finding Nemo show at Animal Kingdom, absolutely not.
Can't have this conversation.
Oh, that hurts me. That hurts me.
Can't do this anymore.
Hurts my soul.
Y'all are gonna gang up on me.
No.
Oh no. Oh no.
I made an entire
like a school of fish.
Yeah.
I literally just released like a couple weeks ago from when we're recording this a spite video about doing only entertainment offerings with no rides and how it's an incredible day to spite Joey.
Oh, you did it specifically to spite me?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. That's what I was saying. It was like, because Joey kept on, you really didn't realize that I didn't know
you did it specifically to spite me. That's so funny.
I did. I made a spite video because I'm secretly Larry David inside. And I said, like, it all came out of like, Joey just like doesn't believe in going to live entertainment in theme parks. So I made an entire video to spite him. And we had it's the best time.
I will say, before we move on to Test Track,
I
did think Emma, our dear friend Emma from All Ears, was present for me alongside Stephanie and Lindsay, recurring cousin mentions on the pod. I they all took me to my first time of New Country Bear Jamboree, which I thoroughly enjoyed. However, like, do I count that as show? Like, I don't know if that's theater because it's all animatronics.
It's robots, yeah.
Yeah, the same reason, like, I like Tiki Room. I don't count Tiki Room as the same. Okay. I do. I count, like, I don't know. Mickey and the Wondrous Book is the only one that I love.
All right, we need to move on. We'll be talking about this for an entire episode.
Yes.
Although, Demi, I do have to say, some of the best videos do come out of spite.
That's true.
I believe so. Yeah, absolutely.
True.
I love a little spite video. Mm-hmm. So real quick, tell us how you were able to preview Test Track 3.0. And then I really would just love, before we even get into the actual ride, to talk about the queue. And I would love to compare the old one to the new one and get your opinion on this brand new queue as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was very fortunate that Disney PR gave me an invite to go to a media event, a media preview of Test Track on Monday. That was June 30th. So I flew down to Orlando the day before, got up at 4 a.m. And it was just a whirlwind, was back in Atlanta by Wednesday morning. Lots of little nights of sleep. But yeah, I got to go experience, got to go on the ride a few times and talk with a couple of the Imagineers behind the ride.
Wow.
And yeah, it was really cool. And it was a very unique experience because I did get to getting to the line. I did get to go through the line with about 10 people in it. So it was kind of like this thing of like somebody else was like, just you're never going to experience this again. Like you'll never get this view of this empty line again. Mm-hmm. So just soak it in. So yeah, I guess so. On my YouTube channel, I just posted a comparison video comparing Test Track 1 from 1999, Test Track 2 from 2012, and now Test Track 3. And so the entrance and the building look very different. They got rid of the big metal canopies, and now there's a new lower profile canopy that still provides shade, but kind of gives the building a more modern, sleeker look. But restores the view of like the world of motion building, which I think is really nice.
Yeah.
And then the line itself, the first room that you walk into, I think is way improved. It's much, they've opened it up a lot. There's a lot of natural light. They did something to the windows to let more light in. So it's much brighter. And in the line itself, in this room, you can see there's two windows where like you can see into the ride as you're about to go to the like buckle up check station. Yeah. And then also out onto the track for the 65 mile per hour part, you can see the cars whizzing by. So, that part, the openness, I loved. That room they call the Legacy of Innovation. Mm-hmm. Which is they have it's kind of like the past of what we thought the futures of cars would be, and they have 3 different concept cars on display and video displays showing like, okay, here are some cars that General Motors made in like the 1960s or 1990s. So it feels very Epcot-y to me, like the whole thing, rather than the last Test Track line to me felt much more like a high-end car dealership.
Yes.
Like it felt very sterile, very boring, shall we say. And I would always Test Track was like it has to be a fast pass or a single rider for me, or else I'm not getting in that line. Just because I just didn't care for it, and I also have a low tolerance for long waits for rides that I've done before, and I've done Test Track so many times. So that's it. That's the first room. And then some of the bigger changes come in the second room. But do you want to talk a little bit about that first room, or should we keep moving through the line?
No, yeah. I thank you for telling me about the cars that are there, because I haven't done the ride yet. It's not open yet. So that's great to know that there's like, it's starting a story of like, here's what it was and when it, I love that part. So my favorite thing is they have these, they look like hexagons, and there's sound panels all over the walls. I don't remember if that was there originally, but if it wasn't, I can see it now, but it looks really pretty because it's like this really nice blue, and it just kind of gives a really fun, like future world looking look to it, like how like of what I would think future world in my brain, I would picture it. And also helps absorb sound as well. So that's like the first thing that I saw in the queue.
Yeah, and the hexagons are in the new logo for the ride as well. So it's kind of like this motif that goes throughout the ride.
Yeah, no, let's walk into the next room.
Okay, so the next room that you walk into, I think, is going to be one of the most controversial changes to the line. Because it's you walk in and it's a much lower ceiling. They call it a more intimate room, like it's darker. And, the first room is about the past to the present. And then the next room is looking forward to the future. And so there are 3 exhibits, one on sustainability, one on electrification, where you can see like the battery platform for a vehicle, and then one with some concept cars on display, and with some videos of like futuristic cars. And there's a big like mural featuring like vehicles on the moon and stuff like that. So it's really giving this futuristic feel. But the concept cars kind of look like something that I would have designed in the Test Track Car Designer. And that gets to the big controversial change, is that this room is where the car design game was, and that's gone completely.
Yes, it is. And do you think that the space is like better utilized versus having the cars? Do you think it takes away from the experience, or do you think it's the right move?
I think everyone's going to feel differently about it. There were a few people that I talked to that are like, I'm so glad that they got rid of this car designer. That was such a time suck. It was always just like, it stopped the line and people would get backed up, and, and then there were other people that I talked to that are like, oh, my kids are going to hate it. That like they loved comparing our scores. They loved designing our car. I personally loved it in a guilty pleasure kind of way. Like, I'd always start out being like, okay, this time I'm going to make a cool car. And then I'd make a Homer car from The Simpsons, and just like a monstrosity of a vehicle, and just, you could be like Elon Musk and make your own Cybertruck and then make it a real thing. And yeah. It was, you could make some really funky designs.
You could.
I think, so going with the new story of the ride, and one of the things that Imagineering kept talking about was that they really wanted a story that was more human, and going away from a behind the scenes look at the world of car design and manufacturing that the first 2 test tracks had, and into something that's more human and more inspirational and more about the future. I think that game was so goofy in a way, and such a time suck, that I think that it's a good trade-off. I think thematically it's a good trade-off. It also, it was already looking dated. And I think if they're trying to set up this ride, each iteration of the ride, I think lasted like 12 years or so. So if they're setting up this ride for the next 12 plus years, then I think that I think it was a good move to get rid of it, because even if they made a new car design game in 2025, it would look really old and dusty by, 2037 or whatever.
Yeah. And I also think I'm glad you brought that up, because it does communicate to me that this is, I think, an attraction that Disney is in for the long haul. Like, I do think that they are committed to keeping this and just revamping it every so often, which keeps it within the spirit of Epcot, I think. And because I think the last iteration was essentially, to me, it always felt like a sort of testing ground for what eventually they were going to do with Tron in Shanghai. So I feel like it was kind of like an Imagineering sort of playground kind of situation. And it always
100% agree.
Yeah, it always felt like that to me. I mean, it didn't feel like a fully fleshed out ride. Watching the POVs of this feels like a fully fleshed out ride. And I want to make sure I ask you before I move on to my next question. Did you clock any concrete, because it's hard to not be in there with my own eyes looking around in the queue and in the ride. Did you clock any concrete references to World of Motion or other past Epcot attractions?
So in the line itself, I didn't clock any World of Motion. I think that there is some. I didn't notice that. I need to go back through my footage and pictures and stuff. Probably, like, there are these giant murals on the wall in the second room. I wouldn't be surprised if there were some there, but there were more that I caught on the attraction itself, and then in the post-show room.
Yeah, what were those? Can you list some of those?
So it's, I guess if anyone's like really sensitive to spoilers or whatever, they might consider this a spoiler, but we're just
Yeah.
gonna talk about the ride.
Yeah.
So there is a specific call out to "It's Fun to Be Free," which is
Oh.
the theme song from World of Motion, the original ride that was in this pavilion, opening day ride from Epcot. And so there's a part where one of the narrators is the whole ride is narrated by a male voice who says that they're your guide, and then a female voice who is the automated car.
Judi Dench.
Dame Judi Dench and Jeremy Irons coming back now. No, they're very optimistic and chipper, and so there's one part where it's like, all right, we're going to go on a road trip now, and the smart car, the automated car, says, "Oh well, it's fun to be free," and then there's a little musical cue that plays during that section that has the little theme. So it's a fun nod. There's also in one section the World of Motion icon is there on like a bridge. That's something that I didn't clock, but I saw someone post on Twitter about it. That's kind of I think you're racing by it. And then there are nods to previous Test Track. There's a part where they're projecting an image onto a reflection of your car, because it's all about you're changing up how your car can look, and it could look like this, it could look like that. And so the image changes as you're driving along, and then it changes to the Test Track 1, yellow and with black and white stripes test vehicle, which is very cute. So there's some like that. And I'm sure there's a lot of other Easter eggs. Like there's you go into a House of Tomorrow and the address is 10-1-82, which is the opening date of Epcot. So things like that.
I love that. That is thank you for like clocking that and keeping that in your brain, because I know that's what Demi and I would do if we were on this ride too. Yeah. And we've seen a lot of people say that this sort of combines classic old weird Epcot with a vibe that feels fresh and new and progressive. Yeah. So how would you describe the tone of the attraction now?
The tone is very optimistic, it's optimistic about the future. It does feel like that classic old school Epcot, in a way that the first two Test Tracks never quite did. Yeah. And it does feel like a classic Epcot ride. It feels like it fits in with Spaceship Earth or Living with the Land, in terms of just the tone, and then also going through actual physical sets, physical props, like something that I didn't quite remember. I remembered the Tron visuals, obviously, from the last version. Yeah. But I didn't, I always remembered Test Track 1 as being kind of more filled out than it was. I was going back through old ride footage, and it's themed to a testing facility. So it's kind of like, well, we can have traffic cones and like these barriers up and stuff like that. So it's very feels like you're driving through a warehouse in the first one. And there were the cool environmental tests with the heat lamps and the cold zone, but that was a very sparsely themed attraction. Yeah. And this feels much more filled out. I think the biggest difference you can tell in the hairpin turn section, where you're going through a forest. And in the first section, it was, plywood flats of trees. Yeah. In the second version, it was neon outlines of trees. And in this version, there's actual, three-dimensional physical trees and some, rock work, and then, a background of sunset. So it's much more feels like you're in a place.
Love that. Love that.
It's so beautiful. Just watching the POVs, it's getting me so excited to actually be on it. But
same.
My favorite part, and you're right, how it really does feel like it fits in with Spaceship Earth and Living with Land. The line is, we've always been dreaming about the world to tomorrow, and then we set course for the future. And that got me so hyped when I heard that. I was like, oh yeah, my gosh, it's Epcot. That's literally, I got emotional just hearing that.
It's Epcot.
Because we're, obviously they've it's not Future World anymore. It's all these three different spots, whatever they want to call them. Whatever.
World Discovery.
World Discovery.
You don't call it World Discovery all the time, Demi?
No.
Hey,
I still call it Future
Discovery,
World.
Y'all.
Yeah.
World
Showcase.
I don't even know.
World Celebration.
Or World Celebration. Yeah, whatever.
World Celebration. Yeah.
Yeah. it really is making me so excited about this feeling, because I didn't get to experience old Epcot. I actually didn't grow up going to the parks. And so like I'm a late and late Disney person. And I've always just like, I missed out on that. And I've always wanted to have that feeling. And that's why I love a ride like Spaceship Earth, because it gives me that feeling I was there or something. And this is feeling like that's also bringing me in. And I also just really love too that like, and it actually even I saw extended out into the queue about, it's funny like how they were like, oh, like you used the word before, they said human, and it is like about like self-driving kind of cars and stuff, but it's really about like they talk about being environmentally progressive and like ways that we can keep the cars, finding more ways to keep it more efficient. And I love that, instead of just like the original, well, not the original, but the 2.0 version, which is like, okay, you're doing a capability, power, efficiency, and responsiveness. Like, this is way more interesting to me.
All in a fake world, a fake digital world.
Yeah, and and that was always like this weird disconnect where they had the original track, and then it's like, oh, you're testing capability, but it's like kind of like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
like the first version was like, oh, here's what it's like when your car loses its anti-lock brakes. We're turning it off, and then you swerve, and then it's like, we'll turn it back on, and then you brake, and it's like, oh, I get it. The second version's like, I don't like, it's pretty, but I don't understand exactly what's happening from a story perspective.
Right.
But it's a fun ride, but it's just like, I don't understand. This one, like, everything is very clear of like, okay, this is the technology today, and now we're taking a drive into the future.
I love that. It makes me so excited to do this.
Yeah, I have to actually say, I normally did not ride Test Track 2.0. And it wasn't, I mean, the theming, like whatever, but what I really want to know, and sorry to cut you off on this question, Joey, but it's been bugging me because I can't really get a clear answer just from watching POVs. One of the reasons I don't like riding it is because of those really hard breaks, that there's 2 of them in the beginning. Is it still as hard as 2.0?
That's a really great question. And, there was I was able to get on the ride 4 times, which was awesome. But also there's so much going on and taking in so much that there's part of it, and I've been on this ride so many times, that part of it was like I wasn't clocking exactly how big the differences were. I do feel like the brakes are smoother. I should have asked them if there was, it didn't really occur to me to ask, but I feel like, especially after the high speed section, I remember like being jerked by the seatbelt, like as it was stopping, like ching, 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 and that didn't happen at all any of the times I went on the ride. So, and in the indoor sections, it didn't feel jerky at all. It felt smooth. So I don't know, like, I can't say like, okay, they definitely said, oh, we're smoothing out the motion and we did this or that. So I don't know if they've officially said that, but it does feel a bit smoother to me.
Yeah, because to me, like, I never understood the appeal, not having ridden the original either, but it just felt like, as someone who has been in a bad car accident, it felt like I was reliving it. Like, it was, it would go really hard and then short stop. Like, that's, to me, I was like, how is this fun? Why are people finding this fun?
Okay. Yeah. I did not have any of that experienced. So hopefully you'll feel the same way.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully.
So given the, I guess, aesthetic and spiritual changes, you could say, of this attraction, because it sounds like the soul of it is kind of coming through a little bit clearer. Do you think it signals that like that weird Epcot in quotes might be back in some way?
I hope so. I'm really, I was kind of thinking about this today, where like, it's really great that they made all these changes and all this story overhaul and didn't tie it to any existing IP. Yeah. Like, they just were like, okay, Test Track is the IP. And even though like the name doesn't make as much sense anymore, they're just keeping the name because that's the name of the ride and it's the same track. But it's really more of like, they were like, it kind of feels more like World of Motion would be a better name for it. And it is like this weird Epcot-y thing where it's just like, okay, we're going to make a ride that is a massive e-ticket ride that you are going to wait an hour for. And also we're going to have a scene that explains LiDAR to you. We're going to have a scene that shows you inductive charging on a road. And it's just, and me, I'm like, yeah, that's edutainment. All right.
Yeah.
So it feels much more of like that old school, like, okay, you're going to go on a ride, you're going to have fun, but you're also going to learn something along the way. And they do it in really cool ways, like the way that they show lidars with these 29,000 points of light that illuminate and give you the shapes of the city.
Mhm.
And it in a way that feels like that Tron 2 of like, oh, this is really visually dynamic, but like has a much more real world story built into it that feels much more like Epcot. Like there is that, it does remind me in a way of Interventions, which is another like weird 90s Epcot thing.
Yeah.
Like it brings a little bit of that back. So I'm hoping like that this is signaling, like if they do a redo of Spaceship Earth, or if they do a redo of hopefully Figment sometime soon, that they won't just be like, okay, well now Figment is becoming the Inside Out ride. Like I hope that they're recognizing.
No, they would.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That was rumored for a while.
What?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
yeah.
I hope that people standing 9 hours in line for a Figment popcorn bucket prove to them that they shouldn't do that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That would be horrendous.
Yeah. No, it also kind of reminds me of, when you leave Spaceship Earth and you're in Project Tomorrow and you have like all those like little games and stuff. I don't know why it makes me the part, like the ride itself made me think of that part of Spaceship Earth, but like because they're talking about they're using cameras for the roads, like to help prevent like any upcoming accidents or anything. You're prepared. There's going to be inductive charging on the road to keep charging your car, which apparently I was watching the POV with my husband, and I was like, oh, that's like a thing. Would that be a real thing? He's like, yeah, apparently they're already starting doing that in like with those Waymo cars, and they're he said that he thinks that they're like 95% efficient, and I was like, oh my gosh, wow. So like this is like, it's not just like, I feel like some of like the old like stuff from Disney where they would talk about the future didn't seem like would actually maybe be like a reality type of thing. Like a very far-fetched thing, but this is already happening. Like it's the future, but it's already happening, which I think is so cool. And then this is kind of a big spoiler. I mean, obviously this whole thing is spoilers, but at the final scene, you get this incredible giant screen where you like are looking at this like beautiful futuristic city. How does that scene stack up in person, and does it feel like a screen in person?
It's way better in person. It is a showstopper. It is a wow moment. While I was making my video, I was going back through my footage, and I literally was like, wow, during my video that I was taking, and I'm trying to not say anything because I need, want to be able to use it and stuff, but I'm just like, I couldn't help myself because it is this giant projection dome. And especially coming from the last version where you're going through those like Tron kind of, parallelograms or whatever that shape is, the purple shapes that feel so closed in. This feels giant. This room does feel giant. I mean, you can tell it's a screen. It's a really good screen. It's a really good projection dome screen. And how they depict the city of tomorrow, that also feels very Epcot, Walt's original vision of this is going to be the experimental prototype community of tomorrow. This is going to be the city of tomorrow. And so I love that ties into that. And it's just kind of like the most, the first test track had that like fake out of like, okay, you're going to hit the barrier. It's the barrier test. And then you're outside, which was a great moment and made sense from the story. This feels like more like, oh, wow, inspirational. Like it just has this fun feeling. And I don't, in a way that like every time I went on, I was just like, all right, here's this part. I love it. It is just such a cool part.
Yeah. Yeah. It also, thinking, like a marketing person too, it also allows them opportunity to maybe since it is a giant screen, you can change it. You can maybe put in an Easter egg of a character in there, which feels like, a less offensive way, I think, to integrate IP into this in the future. If it's just quick and on this giant big screen, because that wasn't. I mean, that was a very tight space before, and now
Oh,
it's sort
yeah.
of been opened up, which I think is really interesting. And there is a lot of talk in this industry right now about overuse of screen technology. So, does the ride to you feel like a good or bad example of screen technology, and how are they utilized throughout the rest of the ride?
Joey, I think that is a great question because I think that there's so much of like a knee jerk reaction to like, oh, they used a screen and it's bad. And it's just like there are good screen rides and there are bad screen
Hell
rides.
Yeah.
Like Flight of Passage, one of the best rides in the world. It's, you know, it's just a screen. Well, not just a screen. There's more to it than that, but it would be nothing without this giant, beautiful screen. And so there can be really, really well done uses of screens. I think all of the screen usage in this ride is really well done. So that projection dome, I think, is the best use of it because it is just this thing of like, they give you this expansive view of a city of tomorrow. And there's really no way to do that with that scale without a dome projection screen.
Yeah.
And there's other parts. They use enough physical props throughout the ride that I think that it's just like, it doesn't feel like it's a screen ride. The other screen part was that part in the House of Tomorrow where it's like, okay, we're going to customize your car and change the look. And Disney's done this effect before. They did it on the previous test track and they do it on Radiator Springs Racers where it's like, we're going to show a reflection of your car and then project an image onto it, like with the white wall tires from that ride. And that was always, it felt like in the past that effect was always like kind of a little hitchy or didn't quite work perfectly. Like sometimes it would work and sometimes it'd be like, it didn't quite line up the wheels or whatever. These images move perfectly in sync with the vehicle and it looks so good. And it creates this really fun moment of like, you can see yourself in the reflection and then also your car is changing. So I think that the use of screens and projections is really well done. And the other one I want to mention is like as you come down the first hill into that scene with the LiDAR scene, it's a image of a cityscape and they have it projected and it's all these projections. And there's this, I don't know how they did it, but there's this depth to it that as you're driving down and it transforms, it just does feel like it goes on forever. And I don't know how they did that with projections or if there's mirrors or whatever it is, but that was always a part that I was like, you can only see it for like 5 seconds. So I was like, this looks really great. So I think in use of screens, I would give big thumbs up on this ride.
What about? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that you can tell in the videos that you can, if you can tell in a video that it is giving that scale. I'm sure it's giving in person.
Yeah, even in like just watching POVs of it, like I had that wow feeling too. So I mean, I'm so happy that it translates. I do want to know though how you feel about when you are after you go through the track and they tell you on the ride when you exit you can visit the showroom for the GM cars.
I mean, they got to pay for these changes somehow.
Disney, we're paying bills. And also I want to point out the games are gone in the showroom at the end. You exit through the GM showroom and all of the games are gone.
Oh,
the games are gone.
Oh, wait, what's there now?
Nothing.
Just cars.
Cars.
There's cars.
There's like on the wall.
Lightning
there's
McQueen.
like a photo of an electric car with like a real electric.
Yeah, with the battery system and like a glowing plug. Yeah.
But I did. Game.
Yeah, I did notice in that room there was like still the Test Track 2 theme playing, which that was nice. And then I will say, before you get to the showroom, there is a great mural of that city of tomorrow that does feel like very classic Epcot of like, okay, you're walking along this big mural on a wall. And that does have some more Easter eggs. There's the Monsanto Home of Tomorrow or House of Tomorrow from Disneyland. That's there. There's, I think there's some World of Motion stuff in there. I think there's probably like a World of Motion logo. That's another thing I want to like go and pixel peep and zoom and enhance and try to figure out what else they have there.
Yeah.
Well, which of these 3 versions do you think that we've seen so far is the best, and how would you rank them and why?
Okay, so first of all, coming in at number 3. Okay, this is going to be confusing because I was thinking coming in at number 3 is number 2, which is that's a very confusing way to say it. So Test Track 2, the 2012 version, that's my last ranked. I called it's Test Track's awkward adolescent phase It had some cool things going for it. I liked the game part of it, and the Tron visuals, like in 2012, those were legitimately impressive. And it made a ride that wasn't that visually dynamic, very visually dynamic. But then once you have Tron and Magic Kingdom, it's kind of like, kind of feels like the Transmorphers to Transformers. Kind of like, all right, well, we have the actual Tron over there. So, so that's it. And also, I think it had the weakest storyline. So it was a big debate for me of like, okay, do I like Test Track 3 or Test Track 1 more? Because I have the nostalgia working for me. That ride came out when I was a teenager. I loved it. Like the whole 90s extreme attitude of the marketing totally worked on me. I was like, yeah, there's a thrill ride. I was kind of also a little bit of a chicken when it came to rides. So I was kind of like, yeah, it's a thrill ride that I can go on at Epcot and learn something. Yeah, extreme. So I love that ride, and it did have like the advantage of they built the story and the track at the same time. So all the movements had one-to-one correlation with what's going on with the story. But I think Test Track 3 is the best version. Like so I would put Test Track 1 as number 2 and then Test Track 3 because it has that old school Epcot heart, that vibe. There's more fully realized physical sets, has just this great optimistic tone. And also one thing that we haven't talked about is the music. Test Track 1 had no music at all during the ride. Like it was just sound effects and just, you hear tires screeching and stuff like that. Test Track 2 used music much more sparingly, but it was more like bleeps and bloops of like, okay, now, and now you're speeding off. And now this has like a score that goes along with the music. And Demi, that line that you said about, we're on the road to tomorrow and we're going towards the future, that's at the beginning of the ride as you're going up this ramp. And there's this music cue that hits right after that just feels so inspirational and optimistic that every time it gave me goosebumps of just like, okay, it sets the ride off on the right foot and sets the tone and just kind of like, it just makes you happy to be on the ride. So, and then the music throughout the rest of the ride just like really enhances what's going on. So I think overall from a story, from visuals, from music, and hopefully like, maybe being 10% smoother on those like brakes or whatever. I think it's a much better experience overall.
I'm so glad to hear that. I do want to know though, so you did rank it number 1, but would you add anything from any of the other versions from Test Track 1 or 2 that you miss about it that you would put in? You think it would work or not really?
Absolutely. There are so many thoughts. I've been thinking about Test Track. I've been immersed in Test Track for the last, 10 days since I got this invite to go to this event because I've been like thinking about Test Track and researching Test Track. So first of all, Bill McKim. Do either of you know the name Bill McKim?
No.
Yes.
So it is vaguely. Well, it's one of those names. That is the name of the tech that played by John Michael Higgins in the pre-show for Test Track 1, who is the one that's like, okay, welcome to the test track. We're going to take you on a ride, and here's all the tests that we're going to do. We're going to do the barrier test and the swerve and stuff like that. So, and John Michael Higgins is one of those like great, like, oh, it's that guy actors. Like it was
he's in all the Christopher Guest movies.
Yes. Hilarious actor. So I wish they had brought him back in some way. I would have loved to see that, and maybe, who knows? Maybe there's like something that says Bill McKim there or something.
Maybe. Or that diva that pushes the button that makes us crash into the thing. She's like,
go on the lookout for it now.
Sherry, that's Sherry. And if Sherry could have come back to the ride, that would have been great.
Diva.
I will say, so that is something, going back to the line, this ride doesn't have a pre-show. It doesn't have a movie that shows you like, this is what's going to happen in the ride. And as a, somebody who grew up in the 90s going to theme parks, like I want a B-list actor telling me like, hey, guess what? I've hijacked the ride and something bad's going to happen. I'm going to be like, yes, that's what I want. It doesn't have it and it doesn't need it, but I would personally love if they had some type of pre-show video to prime the ride experience. And then I would have loved to see a test dummy, a crash test dummy in there somewhere.
Oh yeah, that would have been fun.
That would have been a fun nod. Maybe it's hiding somewhere in that big city mural.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe driving the hovercraft. Yeah,
Hey,
who knows?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, no pre-show, no design cars. I mean, one of the biggest issues with Test Track, of course, is how popular it is and the wait.
Mhm.
So, do we think that this is going to, the whole thing is about efficiency? Is the line going to be more efficient now? I mean, I would hope so.
Maybe so.
I would hope so. I would hope that not having that big stop would help them move through people. But yeah, I think this is going to be really popular. Like they announced that this is going to be a tier 1 lightning lane when it opens up. And now Soren is knocked down to tier 2, which makes a lot of sense. And I think that's going to make lightning lane at Epcot way better, because it was always kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to choose tier 1 to be Frozen or Remy. And now having a choice between Frozen, Remy, and Test Track, I think it's going to spread people out more and make it that those other rides will be easier to get. At least that's my hope. So, I think this is going to be as popular as ever. Oh, and the single rider is still there.
Oh, thank goodness. We need to do more single rider Disney. I mean, it's just not enough. We really need it. But I know they don't want to do that, because then more people won't probably buy Lightning Lane, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's a whole
Because in Universal,
story.
I'm just like hopping on every single rider line all the time. It's
Hell
great.
Yes. Hell
But
yes.
wow,
With that famous quote, "F them kids, we're going on. We are going on these rides by ourselves." That's right. Unless it's the Pteranodon Flyers, Demi. Then please, welcome.
Then you
the
need a
children.
child.
We need the children.
I can't believe it. I finally lived my dream for Pteranodon Flyers,
I
and still
that.
don't know how to say it correctly. Pteranodon.
Yes.
I'm genuinely so excited, because this was a ride that was an automatic always skip for me, and now I'm like, I can't wait to get on this ride. I'm so thrilled what has occurred here, and I'm hoping that the braking issue won't be an issue for me, and because I really appreciate what they did, and I'm just, it's such a beautiful work of art that they've really just created. Actually, I had a thought when you were saying before, really quick, about how like, oh well, now we have Tron over Magic Kingdom, so we don't need it here. So Tron took so long to build. Obviously, it had all those issues. So do we think then, if Tron stayed on track to open up when it was supposed to open, that Test Track would have been under this refurbishment like back then? Like, do we think it's gone, that they had this in mind like so far back, like, or because it's an interesting thought.
That is an interesting thought, and I wish I had asked. I doubt that they would have told me. I wish I had asked how long this was in development, because it does feel substantial. Like I saw someone on social media be like, "Oh, it took a year for this," and I completely disagree with that. Just because it was just like it's a completely new story and overhauled in ways that are like very impressive to me. Of like with the visuals and stuff. So it feels like something that must have been in the works for a while, and maybe they were waiting for all the right elements to line up to actually pull the trigger on this actually happening.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's always like, that's always my question with Disney is like, when, or in theme parks in general, like, when did they think they were going to do this? How long has this been brewing? It's like, it's like the Villain's Land. Like, did they really have this in their brains for a while, or did they just like hear about Dark Universe and then it's like, Villain's Land.
Right. Or the Monsters Inc. roller coaster, which was like apparently greenlit in like 2008.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
California Adventure. Yeah.
Yeah. And then got canceled because of the financial crisis.
Yep.
So and then it was just like one of those things. I was going to make a video last year about like, rides that never got built, and that was going to be one of them, and then they announced, we're building that roller coaster. I was like, oh wow. So
I still make that video.
Yeah.
It didn't happen, and now it will.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's taking over my Muppets.
Yeah.
Muppets.
Your Muppets. Oh no. Well, James, is there anything else that you have coming up that you want to talk about, or anything you want to plug? Any sort of exciting projects you're working on?
I am posting videos all the time on Guide2WDW. I'm Guide2WDW everywhere on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and then Guide to Disney. Guide number 2 WDW, or Guide to Disney on Instagram, because I made a mistake like 12 years ago and got a different username. Now it's impossible to change. But if you search Guide to WDW, you'll find me. I just posted a big in-depth look at Test Track 3, giving all of my impressions about the ride and comparing it to the first two versions. I also do a series on my YouTube channel called Future World, where I look into every little detail that Disney announces and read way too much into it, and then try to predict the future of what's coming. Yeah, everyone should check that out. But yeah, just stay tuned for more videos, because I'm just churning them out all the time.
Yeah.
Work.
I am work.
I am work. I am job. Yes.
I am job. Yeah.
And we are thoroughly impressed with this conversation. I cannot wait to ride it. I know Demi has now gone from being, like you said, avoid this attraction, to being excited for this attraction. And that's a lot thanks to your descriptions of this. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you,
thank y'all for having me.
Fellow theater person turned theme park creator.
Theater enthusiast, yeah.
I'm checking out. I am checking out. Well, thank you so much again for joining us. And I was going to plug all your stuff, but you just did a great job of plugging all that for me. So thank you very much. And just make sure you keep up with me at Joey Nolfi and follow the pod at Parks Peeps Pod for all of the latest theme park news and maybe a weather map on lightning strikes in your area.
And keep up with all my theme park videos and foodie guides and all the fun stuff. There's so much happening.
So much
happening with Horror Unleashed and Not So Scary and Horror Nights and Food and Wine coming up. I'm coming out with all of those food and wine booths, so stay tuned. It's going to be a lot of food. At Magical Hijinx on YouTube and all socials. That's Hijinx. And we'll see you next Tuesday wherever you get your podcast. See you then in the future.
Bye. In the future.
In the future. I like that.
In the future.